Frasier Crane is returning to Seattle in the Frasier Reboot Season 2, and I believe it is for another tragedy. Kelsey Grammer's Paramount Plus reboot began with the death of Martin Crane, which mirrored the real-life death of John Mahoney in 2018. The new episode did not go into detail about how the beloved character died, but it was a tragedy that prompted Frasier to travel to Boston in the hopes of rekindling his friendship with Freddie. Despite some criticism, I believe it was an effective way to begin the first 10 episodes of the Frasier remake. With Paramount Plus renewing the show for a second season, Grammer, who also serves as producer and director, and his team must come up with new stories for Frasier's last act. The Season 1 finale of the Frasier revival effectively resolved his ongoing difficulties with Freddie. While I wish the tale had lasted longer, I understood the pair's reconciliation given the show's uncertain future at the time of its shoot. Moving forward, one of the most anticipated components of Season 2 is Frasier's return to the Emerald City, although the reason for this remains unknown. Kelsey Grammer returns to Seattle in Frasier Season 2. Frasier Season 1 was short on nostalgia, which was a risky narrative direction for a comeback. Nonetheless, I admired that the Paramount Plus series wanted to offer something different, despite the pressure to rely solely on the original show's reputation. There were only 2 notable cameos in its first year: Bebe Neuwirth's Lilith Sternin and Perry Gilpin's Roz Doyle. Surprisingly, Frasier Season 2 is changing its creative approach and upping the nostalgia, and as a huge fan of the Seattle series, I'm pleased for it as long as it's done well. One way the Paramount Plus program accomplishes this is through Frasier's imminent return to the Pacific Northwest in Season 2. As part of the announcement that the Frasier revival will premiere new episodes in September, the streamer also revealed that one of the future episodes will see Grammer's character return to the West Coast. Despite recording the original episode only once on location, Seattle played a crucial role in its narrative. Frasier's Seattle homecoming will be for KACL's closure. Paramount Plus hasn't explained why Frasier will return to his hometown, but given what we know about the show's sophomore year, I have a strong notion. For context, Dan Butler and Edward Hibbert will reprise their roles as Bulldog Briscoe and Gil Chesterton, respectively, while Harriet Sansom Harris will play Bebe Glazer. Gilpin's character, Roz, will also appear in the episode. The original series had a title character, but Grammer was surrounded by several wonderful actors playing interesting roles, 3 of whom were among the greatest. As a huge fan of the flagship series, I'm overjoyed. Unfortunately, what appears to be a KACL reunion may not be happening under the best of circumstances. It's possible that Grammer is flying to Seattle to celebrate the closing of his former workplace. 2 decades after he signed off on the Dr. Frasier Crane show, the radio industry isn't as strong as it was. Before the revival, I was wondering what his work would be in Boston. Between this and the people involved, a proper farewell to KACL 780 is the most likely explanation for Frasier's return. The closing of KACL 780 is also the most efficient method of bringing Frasier back to Seattle. He was also dealing with sadness the last time he was home: Martin's death. Given his decision to spin the Christmas-themed Frasier Season 1 finale, it's safe to assume he wasn't eager to return to the Pacific Northwest after his father's death. Therefore, the Paramount Plus show needs to provide a compelling reason for his return home. While it was most certainly the lowest-paying job Frasier has ever had, I believe he values his time at KACL 780. The Seattle episode of Frasier Season 2 holds a wealth of surprises. Seeing Frasier return to Seattle 2 decades after the original finale makes me wistful. Despite filming in California, the original Cheers spin-off, which I already adored, became synonymous with the city, either through numerous references to it or simply by using the Space Needle as the backdrop to Frasier's opulent apartment, despite its unrealistic location. It remains to be seen whether the revival's forthcoming nostalgia-filled episode will allow Frasier to visit his old haunts outside of his previous office. Aside from his much-anticipated reunion with Bulldog, Gil, and Bebe, there is one more aspect of the film that will undoubtedly move me. In the Seattle episode of the Frasier revival, Frasier will return to KACL's office and sit in his old chair. Uncertainty surrounds whether he'll take calls for the final time, but the mere sight of him returning to the booth he's occupied for over a decade is bound to stir emotions. As he sat down on the rebuilt set, Grammer admitted to feeling choked up.